Thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Property Guide and ET Now, your one-stop destination for all the advice you need on buying property in India. Remember, if you have any questions about buying a home, getting a home loan, or even a roadblock that you've hit, write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen, propertyguide@et-now.com. On the show this week, a checklist from our experts on home buyers who are looking to do a background check on their developers. We'll review Mumbai's Powai real estate market and find out what the growth drivers are and what investment options you have. And in our legal segment, we'll give you options in case you have not received a completion certificate on your home. All right, in the studio today, Ghulam Zia, Executive Director of Knight Frank India, and Ravi Ahuja, Executive Director at Cushman Wakefield. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. Now, before we get to a point of doing a background check on our developers, I do want to ask you about something that's been brought to our notice by several of our viewers, in fact. There are builders now offering guaranteed returns, or what seems like guaranteed returns on projects, where basically you put down 20% as a down payment and the builder guarantees in the next 2 years or so that you will get double that amount back. Now, we know for sure, for those of our viewers who are in Bangalore, we've received a lot of questions about the Mantri Web City project. That's one of the projects that's offering guaranteed returns. No, but just talking to all investors and all viewers across the country, and I want advice from both of you. Do these guaranteed returns, systems make sense? What should we keep in mind if we are going to take up these developers on these offers?
It's important that the guarantee return schemes be viewed with a very, very microscopic lens, because these schemes, what they're offering in many cases, they say guaranteed, but are they really guaranteed? Or are they just estimates which developers feel that given the market conditions, they will expect a price escalation over a period of time. Having said that, yes, there have been guaranteed schemes, especially in the pre-launch projects where the developers, because of the economic environment, have not been able to sell to retail or actual customers, actual users, and therefore they are attracting investors. Now, when investors come in this tough economic environment, and given the liquidity crunch the developers have, the schemes are converting themselves into guaranteed schemes. The one you referred to in Bangalore, to my mind, isn't an assured return product, but is an estimate that the developer feels that by paying just 20% down payment and not paying anything for the next 3 years will result to a 20% appreciation in price, effectively leading to 20% down payment and 20% appreciation, which means you get back 40% and you take home 100% return on your down payment. Now, that's very different from 100% price appreciation on the final value. Yeah.
Well, Ghulam, unless and until the developer can offer me a guaranteed buyback, then it means that I still have to go out and find a buyer on my own. And if I want to take the money back, I have to find a way to take that money back. So for anybody looking at these projects right now, should they look at that document very carefully and make sure that there is a buyback if the guarantee is what they're looking for?
The market uncertainties are something which nobody covers you for. And a lot is written in fine prints between the lines, etc. And if you take a closer look in toto, there is no such thing as guaranteed returns, or there's no such thing as guaranteed buybacks, etc. One thing very simple to understand: if it's really a buyback, then the first thing that is going to hit you is the second stamp duty, and that itself will be a drain which you can't stop. So after that big an impact, if you feel that you will still be able to get 100% return or XYZ returns, is a big question.
Since we were talking about that Bangalore project, in fact, we have a question this week from Rohit, who wants to buy a 1,010 square foot size 2-bedroom apartment in Hennu Road, North Bangalore. He shortlisted Mantri Web City. He wants to know if that's a good option and what kind of returns he can expect over the next 5 years. Ravi, do you want to take that? I'm a little concerned about Hennu Road because of the amount of supply that we're seeing coming up on that street. So for the next 5 years, there'll always be new apartments hitting the market. What can he expect from the one that he buys, if he does, from Mantri?
I think when we're talking about Bangalore as a city and macro level, if I were to convey, the IT as an industry, ITS is faring well as of now. It all depends on the dollar-rupee situation going forward. When we have a stable economy and if that grows, the situation will come under control. But I think today the industry there is doing well. When you go drill down into the location Hennu Road, while there is consistent supply which is going to hit the market, I feel it's a great growth corridor. It is close to the Bangalore International Airport. It is also close to the peripheral ring road from where this particular project of Web City, which is being discussed, passes through. and therefore there is a good chance that you may get 7 to 8% appreciation, and that's what the developer is claiming, 100% appreciation in 3 years, but on your down payment of 20%.
Ghulam, very quickly, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Mantri Web City, 2 bedrooms priced between 50 and 60 lakh rupees right now. Is there a better option for him, maybe in that neighborhood, or is there a better neighborhood for him as an investor?
Well, overall, North Bangalore is transforming faster than the rest of the city in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity with metros and ring roads, etc. So I'm very bullish about this North Bangalore. On a larger context, North Bangalore is something which makes good sense for investment as well as for end-use requirements.
All right. Both of our guests there, 2 thumbs up for the location. So you could go ahead with that one. Get back in touch with us if you have any more questions. Now, the other set of questions that we've been receiving over the last few weeks is from those of you who told us that A-list developers, even though they're constantly being recommended, are too expensive. And that is true. Now, if you're looking to buy a home from a developer who's not on the A-list, how can you make sure that you don't wind up with delays, you don't wind up with shoddy construction, you don't wind up with legal troubles? What I'm going to do is ask both of our guests to give us checklists. Ravi, let's start with you. A B-list developer, let's call them that. How can I make sure, first of all, that he has all of the clearances that he needs to start building and all of the clearances he needs to hand over an apartment?
As simple as asking the developer to show his clearances. And many developers hesitate to do that. But these are times when customers are demanding transparencies. When you don't have an environmental clearance for your project, which takes 6 to 12 months, if I were to be a buyer and if I were told that the developer doesn't want to show that to me, I would be very uncertain about the project. If the development doesn't have an IOD or a CC, commencement certificate, then I would be very uncertain about putting my money in. So please ask for these documents, number one. The other 2-3 macro things the customer can look at is the track record of the developer. Even if he's not an A-grade developer, what are the other developments that he has delivered on time, or even if there are delays, have there been reasonable delays? Reasonable?
What's a reasonable delay?
3 to 6 months, because in today's regulatory environment, getting clearances itself sometimes get delays by 3 to 6 months. So you should be able to give that kind of a grace, particularly for projects that are large enough. And finally, I think the financial institutions play a role. They do their own due diligence. Some of the private equity funds who partner with the developer also do a hell of a due diligence on the project. And I think the customer can find solace that if there are reputed institutions funding or providing housing finance for those projects, they have done their due diligence. So these are some of the macro aspects that customers should look into.
So environment clearance, IOD and commencement certificate, the absence of these is a deal breaker, right?
I think so, yeah.
All right, Ghulam, we keep talking about the fact that the market has not been so good for the last 1 year, but real estate in our cities has not really gotten cheaper. There's a lot of money that developers are asking us to pay for air. There's nothing that's been constructed yet. So they'll show you a piece of land and say, imagine what this is going to look like. And a lot of times, and people have written to us that they pay the money, it never turns out to be what they bargained for. Specifications get changed, the sizes get, shrunk. Sometimes it just is never complete. How do we make sure that we don't wind up in a situation where the developer has not delivered what he promised he delivered?
Let's understand that when you are buying a development like that, when you're investing in a project which is either on drawing board or just about initial stages, etc., the prices that you're getting are also in lieu of that risk that you're taking. So a typical price differential between a finished good and an under construction project, especially in a city like Mumbai, can even be 100% and more. Now, having taken that big a risk, that's obviously your choice. You have entered into a project like that because you have already taken that huge discounting from the developer. So after that, if there are those changes that you're talking about, then you have to be happy that at least you've got a great price.
All right, so if you weren't able to write that down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back on your screen. This is a list of papers and documents that your builder must have if you're going to buy property from him. And if you don't want to take on the risk, make sure that you buy something that's closer to completion or is already complete. But Naresh has written in, he wants to buy a 2 or a 3 bedroom apartment in Noida or Ghaziabad with a budget of 20 to 30 lakh rupees. He wants to know what properties he should opt for that are free of legal disputes give him some options. Well, Ghulam, given the budget of only 30 lakh rupees and the fact that he wants no legal disputes, that narrows it down quite a bit. What can he buy really in Noida at this price?
Well, I'm not so concerned about legal issues. I'm more concerned about the price, about the budget, because that budget that we're talking about, at least in Noida, I can't imagine anything coming in that budget. So it can be Ghaziabad for all you know, but even there, you have to, your choice will be very, very limited. Ghaziabad as well, you have an average price of about 3,000 to 3,500 rupees a square foot kind of a price tag that you have. And as I see, even if I'm going for 2.5 to 3 BHK, I'm talking about a good 1,500 square foot size on an average, which is far higher than the budget that our friend is asking for. So I would rather say a requirement is to relook at the budget or relook at the location, which has got to be much cheaper than what we are looking at.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Powai in Mumbai and find out if it makes sense to invest. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Both of our guests are still with us, helping us make smart decisions when it comes to buying property. Well, it's time now for us to focus on a specific market. And this week, we turn the spotlight to Mumbai's Powai realty market. Now, this is a commercial hub that's witnessing steady traction of residential growth. I remember a time when it was nothing more than a lake where people in Mumbai would go for picnics. Let's take a look at the price trends in the locality, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Until the late 1940s, Powai was no more than a 120-year-old lake, the prestigious IIT Bombay, and a Larsen & Toubro manufacturing plant. 34 years ago, the Hiranandani Group created Hiranandani Gardens, a residential township spread across 250 acres of land, the first major residential development in the locality. As space along the Western Expressway grew to saturation, Powai emerged as a suitable alternative. Tapping into rising demand, engineering major L&T is also developing part of its space in Powai as a residential complex. The Jogeshwari-Vikhroli Link Road, which links the eastern and western suburbs, passes through Powai, and the suburb is well connected through the rail network, and the international airport is only 5 kilometers away. As a result, home prices in Powai have witnessed a steady up move for over 2 years and are currently quoting an average of 16,975 rupees a square foot, an increase of 33% in just 2 years. All right, so that was Powai. Ravi, there isn't a lot of supply happening in Powai right now, but the rates are still fairly high. For people looking to make investments, does it make sense to look at a second sale apartment in Powai at this point?
So just 10 years ago, Powai used to be way out, not connected. People used to dread going there. It used to take hours to reach there from any part of Mumbai city. Today, with the 14-lane World Bank funded JVLR connecting Powai through and through, I think Powai has seen great growth, not only in connectivity but also in quality, when we have names like Hiranandani and now many other names like Rahejas or Nihars who have created an ecosystem of that location. So yes, Powai has reached a maturity over the last 7 to 10 years. 20 to 30,000 rupee per square foot could be the prevailing rate, and that's high. But the periphery around Powai does offer huge growth even now. It is developing very quickly. We're seeing Chandivali quoting between 12 to 14,000 rupees a square feet, or the upcoming Vikhroli or Kanjurmarg locations, which are seeing reputed names like Godrej and others launching their projects. So I think those locations, if you are an investor, can give you higher upside. Powai is a great investment for a second home. You could get great rentals. There are corporates around who are looking to, and it's an ecosystem on its own. It'll never have a downside, but the upside will be greater in the more peripheral locations around Powai.
Ghulam, these peripheral locations that we're talking about, Chandivali, Vikhroli, Ghatkopar, how much growth do you expect for someone who goes in right now and buys a 2-bedroom apartment from one of these reputed builders? What sort of returns can they expect in the next 5 years?
If you're talking about sheer price going up, it's something which I won't see much of a scope even in the peripheral locations, because at 15 to 20,000 rupees a square foot kind of a price, I am personally not very upbeat that that 15-20 could become 30-35, etc., because somewhere it has to hit the circuit. And as Ravi was mentioning, this location has matured over a period of time. So most of these units have already been have changed hands, and prominent and well-known developers have already put up their towers, etc. Kalpataros, Runwals, and so on and so forth have already made their presence felt. So overall, I would rate not just Powai, but even the adjoining areas of Ghatkopar, Vikhroli, or for that matter Chandivali as matured locations. And then if you are looking at buying something in matured location, you can't expect huge amount of growth.
Alright, so if you're looking to buy a home in Powai or its neighbouring locations like we were talking about, here are some options put together by our experts. If you're looking for a home in and around Powai, here are some options for you. The Lotus by Pashmina Developers, Grandeur by Raheja Builders, and Emerald Isle by L&T. In Chandivali, Vistas by K. Raheja Corp, Amrit Shakti by the Nahar Group. In Vikhroli, Platinum by Godrej Properties, and Hillcrest by Mayfair Housing. In Ghatkopar, Rising City by Hubtown, and The Address by Vadva Developers. Alright, speaking of Chembur, Bhavna has written in. Now, she wants to invest in an apartment in Chembur or Tilak Nagar with a budget of 1.75 crore rupees. Now, she shortlisted Godrej Central in Tilak Nagar. She wants to know if that's a good option. Ravi?
I think Chembur, Vadala, that belt is a great growth corridor today, and rightly so, because of 2 or 3 infrastructure projects which are coming up, which will make this location very connected. Then through and through there's going to be an international airport that will take you through Chembur up till Panvel or till Navi Mumbai. To my mind, the project is good. It's a reputed developer, Godrej, and therefore their track record of delivery can be rest assured. I think they also have all the approvals now in place. It's a redevelopment project. It's a large parcel of land they have there. So eventually when the entire project is ready with number of buildings, it will give an self-sufficient kind of gated community. Although one has to look at the density, I've seen the plan and take a call. It is in Tilak Nagar and really a little away from the hustle bustle.
The less glamorous cousin
You're right.
Chembur, right.
You're right. But the price is equally attractive. At if one were to look at the quoted price of Godrej there, one has to be a little patient. In 3 to 4 years' time, you can get a very good appreciation there.
Unfortunately, it's time for us to take another break. Both Ghulam and Ravi, thank you so much for joining us on the show and answering all of our questions. If you have questions for either of them, write to us. Our email ID is on your screen right now. When we come back, we'll bring in a lawyer. We'll talk about what happens if your developer doesn't have a completion certificate for your home. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's time for us to solve your legal problems. And to help us answer your questions, Advocate Hemang Jariwala joins us right now. He's a property legal expert. Hemang, thank you so much for joining us. Our first question this week comes in from Rahul. He booked an apartment at AGC Homes 121 in Noida. Now, the possession for this apartment was due in July 2013. It's obviously been delayed. The project has not received a completion certificate because there's a dispute right now between the Noida Green Tribunal and the Noida municipal authorities. The builder has told him this and has offered him possession of the apartment if he pays the due amount, including all the notary costs. However, registration will not be possible until the authorities issue the completion certificate. He wants to know what he should do now. Should he go ahead and pay the dues anyways, and what legal options he has?
In this case, the first thing the flat purchaser should do is to make a RTI application, one to the Green Tribunal and the second to the Noida Authority, and try to find out whether there is any dispute between these two authorities or not, and if there is a dispute, why there is a dispute, and what are the clearances the builder has not taken for the said project. After that, he has to send a legal notice to the builder seeking explanation as to why such clearances were not taken. Thereafter, he should file a consumer complaint under the Consumer Protection Act, and he should thereafter make an application in the consumer complaint under section 13(3)(b), praying that no flat, the flat which has been purchased by him, should not be resold to any other person, but should be safely kept for himself. Thereafter, in the said complaint, he should make a prayer that unless and until the clearances are got by the builder, he should not be forced to make any payment to the builder. In this case, no possession should be taken by the flat purchaser, because if he takes the possession, makes full payment to the builder, and if the clearance doesn't come in, then the flat purchaser will lose out his total consideration and will go into a long-drawn litigation with the builder.
Our next question comes in from Mahesh, who booked an apartment at Orbit Terraces in Mumbai in 2012. He tells us currently the construction on the project has been halted because of lack of BMC approvals. Now, he says he's paid 70% already and there's no clarity on the construction and when it will resume. He wants to know what options he has as a buyer.
Orbit Terrace is a project in Mumbai in the state of Maharashtra, and Maharashtra ownership of Flats Act 1963 comes into play. Under Maharashtra Ownership of Flats Act, under Section 4, a builder can take maximum 20% of the consideration amount. Here, the builder has taken almost 70% from the flat purchaser, which itself is a gross violation of the said act. Secondly, the project is stuck because the BMC approvals are not taken. And that's why, in spite of having paid 70%, the flat purchaser is helpless. A legal notice has to be sent by the flat purchaser to the builder. Thereafter, a criminal complaint has to be filed under Maharashtra Ownership of Flats Act. A consumer complaint under the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act 1986 has to be filed, in which he has to pray that the amount which has been paid by him either should be refunded back to him with interest, or in the alternative, the builder has to give him an alternative premises at the rate fixed by the builder with him when this agreement was signed. And I am sure the consumer courts will grant him these reliefs and give him an alternate flat at the rate at which the builder has entered into a contractual relationship with him.
All right, Hemang, thank you so much. Now, if you have a question about anything to do with the legal aspect of buying property, or if you've hit a roadblock, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can also reach me on Twitter at any time. It'll be my pleasure to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching.